What if I told you that the reason your side hustle feels so chaotic and inconsistent has nothing to do with your discipline and everything to do with the fact that you do not have a system? Because here's the truth: discipline is unreliable, motivation is unreliable, but a well-built system that runs on autopilot even on the days you're exhausted. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact weekly planning method I use to keep my side hustle moving forward consistently without burnout, without rigid scheduling, and without sacrificing my peace. So let's get into it. A few years ago, I was doing everything I could think of to make progress on my side hustle. I had a long to-do list every single week. I was posting on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. I had a blog for Facebook Grow, and all of this was going on at the same time. Can you imagine? Insane. I was buying courses and investing in coaches, consuming every piece of content I could find about how to do it all. And I felt like I was going nowhere because my to-do list never felt completed. And I was always tired. I was constantly frustrated, and a couple of years later, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. So that diagnosis was really a turning point for me because I felt like there has to be a way where I can really make progress towards my goals and my dreams without just drowning in that process. And that right there is when I really stopped trying to do everything, did research, trial and error, and started really focusing on building systems. And the system I'm sharing with you today is one of the ones that really changed everything for me. And I promise you, this is really simpler than you think. So if you're new here, welcome. This channel is for ambitious, driven professionals who are navigating a 9-to-5 while building a side hustle or exploring their creativity, and they want to do this with intention and not exhaustion. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell so you do not miss anything that I post on this channel, because I put out videos on creating systems like this every single week. Now, everything I'm about to share works even better when you have a plan to plug it into, and that's why I created the 7-step weekly reset blueprint, a simple tool that helps you plan your weeks so your side hustle actually moves forward consistently without the overwhelm. And the link to get that guide is down in the description box below, or simply comment weekly reset, and I'm going to send it to you. So I'm going to take a minute before we go into the tactics, because I think context really matters. When I first started learning about productivity, I made the same mistakes I made with my side hustle. I tried to apply everything at once. Everything that I was learning here and there about productivity and building systems, I tried to apply all of these things all at once. I downloaded all the apps, I read all the books, I watched all of the videos, listened to all the podcasts about personal growth, productivity, building systems, like all of the tactics and hacks and everything. I got them all, I consumed them all, and tried to apply them all. And guess what? I got overwhelmed again. And then I read the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. And that book, combined with prayer and leaning on my faith for wisdom and rest and peace, that actually completely reframed how I approached everything. And the core principle is this: you do not need to do everything, you need to focus on one thing at a time. And that's when I stopped trying to build the perfect productivity system and really focused on building something that works for my life. A system not just based on my current circumstances, but on who I am, right? My energies, my values, my responsibilities. That is exactly what I want to show you today. Not giving you someone else's system to copy, but walk you through the building blocks so you can create something that works for your own life. Because here's what I know for sure: once your system fits your life, you stop relying on motivation, you stop waiting to feel ready. What you do is you simply just execute. So let's start with building your Autopilot Foundation. And the core idea here is to focus on systems over willpower. So productivity works best when you build systems, plain and simple. And systems work because they remove the need for you to consistently make decisions. You don't have to think hard about what to do next. You do not have to negotiate with yourself every single evening. What you do is you simply follow the plan that you already built and simply execute. That is what autopilot looks like. It's not robotic, it's not rigid, but it's intentional. So we're going to build yours. And there are 4 parts to the system, and we're going to go through each one of them. So the first part is you want to define your non-negotiable 3. The first thing I want you to do is stop writing a to-do list with 15 items on it, because I promise you that list is one of the main things you even feel overwhelmed before you even start. Instead, every week I want you to identify 3 non-negotiable tasks. The first is your main side hustle task, and this right here is your needle mover. The one thing that if you get it done this week is going to move your side hustle forward. You're going to make progress with your side projects. The second thing is maybe one life or admin task, and this can look like an appointment, errands, maybe paying your bills. This is simply something from the real life category that absolutely must get done. And then you have one personal task, and this is something for you, something for your well-being, your personal growth, for your joy, your peace, your rest, right? This is for you, for your own personal maintenance. And that's it. 3 tasks non-negotiable. So these 3 categories could change, right? It could change depending on your season, depending on what's happening in your life. So sometimes these 3 categories could look like something for your community. You can equally put that into your personal task or life task, depending on if that is something that actually gives you joy. Right? So if you're doing some community service and that brings you joy, brings you fulfillment, you can categorize that under your personal non-negotiable. For your family, you can categorize that under your life non-negotiable, right? For maybe your job, 8 hours, that is your work hours. You get everything done within those hours. But these other hours are things that you need to manage yourself. So you need to put them under these 3 categories, right? And you can recategorize them differently depending on your life and your responsibilities, depending on you. But you need to understand that these categories could change every now and then, right? You could rearrange them and readjust them depending on what you need or depending on what's happening on your life within the current season. But once you categorize like this, it does 2 very powerful things. It prevents overwhelm because you are not staring down an endless list, and it also eliminates decision fatigue. And that's because you already know what matters most this week. Now, this is where a lot of people are a little bit squeamish about this categorization, and they're like, am I only going to do 3 things this week? The answer is absolutely not. However, these 3 things are the anchors, right? These are the 3 most important things that need to absolutely get done. The other things are just a bonus. Now, the next thing is you want to assign default time blocks. So when you know your non-negotiable 3s, the next thing is you want to actually assign a default time block for this task. So for something like your side hustle, what I do advise is you do assign a specific recurring block for your side projects. It will be great if you can have a recurring block for this, even if it's just one at least. We have different lives, we have different schedules, so I do not expect everybody's schedule to be the same or responsibilities to be the same. But if you can have at least one reoccurring block dedicated towards your side hustle on your calendar, that would be great. That would be the best option, because at that point you can easily maintain consistency and can easily have more structure and plan better, because you know that at least for this amount of time I can dedicate maybe 2 hours 3 times a week for my side hustle, and that helps you plan better, because that's simply the part that actually creates the autopilot effect, right? When something is scheduled at the same time every single week, your brain stops negotiating. It stops asking, should I do this tonight or should I do it tomorrow? It just knows that Tuesdays at 7 I work on my side hustle. So your blocks do not have to look like anybody else's. They need to fit your own real life. It needs to fit your work schedule, your commute, your energy, your family responsibilities. But the most important thing is, once you set them, you want to protect them as non-negotiable appointments with yourself, because they are. These are appointments that you cannot miss. You have to follow them and you have to create boundaries around them. So quick check-in before we go ahead, right? If you are taking notes, you really want to take note of this next part, because this is where most people are going to drop the ball. And it's honestly the difference between the people who stay consistent and those who just constantly restart. But please drop a comment below and tell me, what are your own side hustle days? Even if they are inconsistent right now, I'd really love to know. And if you haven't downloaded the free weekly reset blueprint, make sure you go down to the description box below and download it, or simply comment weekly reset and I'm going to send it to you. It's going to make what I share next so much more actionable. So the next part is what I categorize as the differentiators. And the first thing is you want to plan for failure. This is the real differentiator. And this is the part that a lot of people unfortunately do not really talk about. And in my opinion, it's one of the most important things about your entire system. You need to plan for failure. And it's not because you're expecting it. It's just because failure means the unexpected, right? Circumstances, situations, things that do not go as planned, whether it's good or not so good. So you're going to have weeks where you are exhausted. You're going to have weeks where something unexpected comes up. And again, it might be something good unexpected. It might be something not so good unexpected. And you might have some weeks where you just sit down at 7 p.m. and your brain is just not at that place where you really want to get any kind of work done. Your brain is just completely empty. And most productivity advice kind of ignores this or do not really account for this. And that's why most people's systems just crumble or fall apart, because they do not account for this. They do not prepare for this. They miss one block and suddenly they're falling off and they need to figure out, how do I get back on track? So here's what I do. I do build a backup plan, or what I call the minimum viable version of every single week. So a backup slot is simply a window of time later in the week, maybe like Saturday mornings, where you just hold loosely in case you miss one of your your default blocks. So it is not extra work, it's just your safety net. Now for me, that used to be Friday evenings. So I will work on my side hustle Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and then sometimes on Saturdays. Now, if for some reason I do miss one of those weekdays, then I am going to use Fridays. I chose not to work on Friday because I really want my head cleared and not exhausted or burned out or overwhelmed before I go back to my side hustle, more creative work on Saturdays. So Fridays for me would be a time where I just rest and not do any kind of work, just relax, throw myself into a fiction novel and get immersed in that world. But if for some reason I was not able to work on my side projects for the days that I dedicated for that within the week, then I would use that Friday slot as a substitute for that. And also you can do the minimum version for your tasks, right? And this is simply the smallest version of a task that you can get completed to show that you're still making progress, to maintain that momentum. So for example, if your goal was to write a full script on a particular day, you can change that to just outline that script, which could take only about 15 minutes for you. Just something really small for this particular task, maybe just the first part of it or the second part of it. This just helps you maintain momentum and helps show you that you're still making progress. And 15 minutes is okay, right? Because even just 15 minutes of really focused, intentional work is better than you not doing anything at the end of the day. All it does is keep that streak alive. And that, trust me, is enough for you to keep going. Is enough for you to continue to maintain that momentum and keep you motivated. This is very important because this is what is going to take you from I keep starting every single Monday to the part where you can boldly say I have been consistent for the past 6 months. Because you're not setting up yourself up for perfection, you are setting yourself up for sustainability. Now, the final part to your autopilot side hustle system is your weekly reset ritual. And this final piece is what ties everything together. So this is simply a 15 to 20 minutes ritual. It could take up to 30 minutes depending on, again, your life. This is just once a week where you simply review everything for the past week, right? What happened, what needs adjusting, and this is where you equally set your non-negotiables for the next week. So you want to notice what I said, right? You adjust, you do not restart. You do not shame yourself for what did not get done. So rather, you're going to look at it honestly and you are going to try to figure out what actually got in the way of that. And then you simply make small tweaks where necessary and move forward. This right here is a mindset shift that changed everything for me and some of my clients too. Once I read the one thing and started applying this to my productivity, I realized that the goal was never ever to have a perfect week. The goal was to have what I can term the learning week. Every week is going to teach you something about your capacity, your energy, and your priorities. And over time, that system is just going to get better. It's just going to get better and better the more you make these adjustments and understand yourself. The execution gets smoother and you start feeling like you're fighting against your own life to make progress. So here's what I want you to walk away with today. You don't need more hours in your day. You don't need more discipline. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You need a realistic, simple system that fits your own real life. One that has flexibility built in, rest built in, and a plan B built in. One that honors your 9 to 5, your side hustle, your personal life, and your peace. So you want to define your non-negotiable 3, assign your default time blocks. You want to plan for the hard weeks and not just the good ones. And you want to reset without restarting every single week. So that's the system. And once you follow it consistently, your side hustle is going to start moving on autopilot, even on the days when life tries to slow you down. I know this because this is the exact system I used after years of burning out. After the high blood pressure diagnosis, after the layoff, after every season that tried to knock me off course, and it's what I come back to every single time. Now, here's your action step for this week. Download the free 7-step weekly reset blueprint down below. It walks you through how exactly to set up your weekly plan using everything that we've talked about in this video today. Your non-negotiable 3, your time blocks, your backup plan, and your reset ritual. All of this in one simple free resource. So the link is down below, or simply comment weekly reset and I'm going to send that to you. Thank you so much for watching. If this video gave you clarity or a new perspective, subscribe to this channel because it helps me reach more individuals like yourself who actually need this message in order to create a system that is built on peace and not one that leaves them exhausted and overwhelmed every single day. So please subscribe, like this video, and comment below which part of the system you're going to implement first. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Bye.